There is something in this book. It's like crack or something. Hello, hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hayley. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite reads of 2022. Also, I know it is a different setup. Let me know how you feel about it. I didn't think this list through that thoroughly or that well, so we'll see how this holds up. I read 62 books this year, which is a lot. It's nothing close to what I read in the past couple years, but I've realized that I feel like the past few years where I read over 100 books, I didn't remember like 75% of the books that I read, because I feel like back then it was more about quantity than it was about quality for me. But this year I really took time to figure out what I really love in books, and so I am remembering and actually fully enjoying like 90% of the books I've read, especially in the like last half of the year. Now I know what I like and I'm still exploring, but I'm a lot more particular, and I've noticed a change in the way that I enjoy reading, and it's been nice because I'm not reading as much, but I am enjoying what I'm reading a lot more, and I'm remembering it, and it's actually having a lasting impact and impression on me, which I think is a lot more valuable, at least for me. So I'm happy about that. Let's get into it. My top 10 books of 2022. This is in no particular order. These are just the order in which I grabbed the books off of my shelf. First up, we have On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This book, the second I started reading this book, I was like, oh, this is going to be a new favorite, because the prose is phenomenal. It's so beautiful, and just everything that this book talks about is something that I feel so deeply. It talks a lot about intergenerational trauma, and it's not just like family dynamics and a marginalized family, but it also talks about like intergenerational trauma and how that impacts each generation, and how being an immigrant obviously has a huge influence on someone's life, but that all the trauma that you've experienced in the new country and your home country, that is passed down to your children and their children's children. It's so emotional, but it's amazing because I just felt so seen reading this book, and this kind of like fueled my obsession with intergenerational trauma. I've always been obsessed with it because I feel like I want to read every book that explores it, but this one was especially great because it is written by a BIPOC queer author, and this book is actually like a letter from a son to his mother who can't read. I feel like it talks about literally everything, discovering sexuality and, you know, growing up feeling out of place, and then all the trauma that you've taken on because of your mother and her trauma that she's passed on to you. And so there's a lot. It's really heavy, but it's so good. Ocean Vuong has some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. Of course, this is a new favorite, and I think everyone should read this. Next up, I have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. We all know this is a classic tale of romantic suspense and gothic horror or drama, whatever you want to call it. Well, first of all, look at the annotation. This is one of my most heavily annotated books ever. I had the time of my life while I was reading this book. Not only is like the story itself something so gripping and immersive, because it almost kind of feels like a mystery. Rebecca is about this young woman who becomes married to this widow, and the widow is still pretty obsessed with his previous late wife Rebecca, and so like it's kind of like his whole estate, like even his housekeeper is like so obsessed with her. Everyone is obsessed with Rebecca, and the main character is like, well, who is this Rebecca? This mysterious Rebecca still is like infiltrating their lives and controlling everyone, even though she's been gone. The intertwining tales of deceit and loyalty, and it kind of like toes the line of toxicity and obsession versus like love and devotion, and how if you like love someone too much, that can turn into obsession and possession almost. And it was really interesting to see that play out in this book, and the prose, so beautiful. We're gonna see a common theme. I feel like a majority of the reason why I was so hooked is because of the writing and the prose, but then also I really was like, what is going on with Rebecca? Like I really need to know, because everyone was so obsessed with her, and I'm like, this lady is dead, yet she still has everyone in a gorilla grip. Okay, and then next up is a book that I have talked about a million times, and I will never stop talking about it, and that is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. We all know Sabaa Tahir is like my favorite author ever. This is my personalized copy that she gave me as a gift, for basically as a thank you gift for like talking about her work on the Kelly Clarkson show. This is like my most prized possession. I just love this book so much. I remember I read it in one sitting. Like I opened up the book just to like see what it was gonna be about, and then I just didn't stop reading until I finished it. And it was an emotional roller coaster. As we all know, Sabaa Tahir puts everyone through it. All of her readers in shambles. It's about so many things, but I feel like the main thing is about forgiveness and family and healing. It follows 3 characters technically, but like the main 2 are like these teenagers, Salahuddin and Noor, and they're both just trying to survive high school in a racist, misogynistic society that is trying to literally kill them. And so they both have to take on the most desperate actions in order to survive and graduate and get out of there. And there's a lot of terrible stuff going on with their families and their community, and it's so much, but it's so gripping, it's so emotional, and I love it. This also talks a lot about family dynamics and being an immigrant and kind of feeling like you don't belong and trying to find a place for yourself and figuring out where you do fit in and how far you're willing to go to save the ones you love and rekindling those relationships. Sabatahir is amazing with writing family in books and just every type of relationship, but I feel like family specifically in this one stood out to me the most. This is one of the first books I read in 2022. I still remember like every little detail. It gets imprinted on my soul. Next up, another highly annotated book of mine is Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie. Another book that felt like it was written directly for me, directly to my soul. It's amazing. It's a young adult coming of age, coming out story about this young girl named Ophelia who realizes she's like having these feelings for her classmate. It just puts so many of my feelings into words that I feel like I could never voice or talk about because I didn't know how to explain them, but Raquel Marie she just does it. And I'm like, wow, it just made me feel so seen. I wish so badly that I had this book back when I was in middle school or high school because it would have made me feel so comforted and like not so alone. And like reading this book now is just like, I'm so glad that we have this book in the YA space and just for everyone in general now. I was immediately touched by it and I instantly was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is gonna help and impact so many people. And so the fact that I felt that way at my big age, I just know that people younger are gonna adore it and feel so seen by it. But yeah, this book is also heavily annotated. Oh yeah, also she signed it because we did an event together. But this is also one of my most prized possessions now. I feel like every character dynamic and relationship in this book was so well done because even though this book is told from one point of view, she has a large group of friends and they were all full characters that I felt and understood, and they each had their own individual struggles that they were dealing with. They were all so vivid to me. And another one of my favorite parts of this book was the intersectionality with being a person of color but also being queer, and how sometimes queer spaces don't leave enough room for people of color who are also queer. But I love how Ophelia discusses and kind of explores her feelings of being queer and BIPOC. Okay, next up I have Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry by Joy Goffney. I've already read her other book, Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl. Loved that one, but this one I like just a little bit more because this one actually like made me cry. I don't know, there is something in this book, it's like crack or something. I was so emotional while I was reading it, just seeing a black girl in love and be so fully and completely loved, just it made me so happy. And also this character is me. Like her mom and dad are a lawyer and a doctor. I was like, oh my god, so are my parents. And then like her grandma has dementia and I was like, oh my god, that's my grandma. And then her like fears surrounding that and like the family issues she was having, it just felt so real. I was like it was kind of scary at times. I was like, this feels like it is my life. The only thing that wasn't me, which is actually a huge part of the book, is the fact that she journals. Like she writes lists, and that's like the main thing is like her journal goes missing and she is blackmailed into completing all of her listed items, goals, and fears in order to get her journal back. I don't journal, so like I didn't relate to that, but literally everything else in the book I was like, this book was made for me. Like I actually think this is me. Like me and Quinn, we are the same person. Again, another book I would have loved to have when I was in middle school or high school. Like this is phenomenal. A young adult contemporary book about a black girl trying to figure things out with her family, struggling with feeling like she's not good enough, feeling like she needs to prove herself, and then also experiencing love and realizing that she can be loved. It was so good. I was crying. Like it's not even sad, but I realize now that because my Prozac does not allow me to cry over sad things unless it's like real life, like my dog dying, that was very sad for me. Cried. I only cry for happy things like black woman experiencing love and black woman being loved and worshiped. Like this book, it was that, and it made me so emotional because I was like, this is So cute. I was in shambles. The representation of young love and black girlhood in this book is something out of a dream. Like, I've always wanted to read something like this, and Joy Goffney is a new favorite author of mine. I'm so excited to read her new books. So next up, we have another book that I've talked about a million times because I'm on a mission to get everyone to read it, but that is The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport. This is the ultimate murderous woman book because this book follows a young black woman, Ikenna, who must survive the most deadly trials in order to become an elite warrior in a misogynistic, racist society. There is a lot of violence. She is incredible because she doesn't care what people think. Like, she will go after anyone. She will kill them. She will threaten them. There is one scene, I was reading the ebook when I was first reading it, and I took a screenshot and I posted it on my Instagram story because it was her like holding a knife to some dude's throat and like cursing him out, and I was like, yes, this is amazing. I love her. I love this book. I posted it on my Instagram because I was like, everyone needs to read this book, and then it got removed for hate speech. I was like, first of all, black women are allowed to be angry. This is just proof that Instagram is anti-black. I also love this book because it is just pure female rage, but also it's full of a black woman being allowed to be vulnerable. I feel like we don't see that enough in books. Like, so many times black women are villainized for showing emotion, and I'm so glad that this book is just like a black woman being angry and grieving and her being allowed to do that. I just loved the representation of black womanhood. This is a unique blend of sci-fi and fantasy. The world building is lush and immersive, and there is a little side romance. It's like so far from the plot, but it's like enemies with benefits, whatever you want to call it, rivals with benefits. There are other parts of this book that are amazing, but I mentioned that because some people are really serious about their smut. Like, I don't know. My favorite parts of the book are Ikenna and just her being unapologetically black and angry. Also, this book, breakneck speed. It is so fast paced. I felt like I got whiplash because it was going by so fast. Like, there's so much stuff happening. Also, if you're gonna read it, check the trigger warnings because it gets very intense. Like, these trials are no joke. It's like everyone is getting hate crimes on every other page. Next up, we have Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser and Robin Smith. This is just a cute little graphic novel about a group of black women washing their hair. If you're not black and you don't have natural hair, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the girls that get it. It's literally about their separate wash days. Because, you know, when we wash our hair, it'd be taking a whole day and a half. It's just so great because they're all so different. Like, there's one girl who is struggling with depression and anxiety, and she's like having a hard time taking care of herself, and her friend comes over and it's like, and they're all together, and it's just, oh, it's so good. Like, we see these little snippets of their life. Art is so cute, and there's so much like family, and it's just so good. It's like a slice of life, but for black women. Black women, you know, they make me feel some type of way. I love them, and I love that I got to read a book about the purest form of black womanhood, which is like natural hair care. I feel like a lot of people kind of underestimate how much our hair means to us. I know it's different for everyone, but if you just do a quick little Google search, you will find out how much history has impacted it. I mean, from slavery to the modern workplace, black hair is incredibly important for us. It is a movement, it is necessary, and it was amazing to see this representation, not just in text, but also with pictures. Next up, I have In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir, and oh my god, this book. This one stood out to me so much because, I mean, the prose, liquid gold. Some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read in my life. It's a memoir, so it's Carmen's experience in an abusive, toxic relationship with another woman. It's like the timeline of that relationship, like before it, during it, after it, the healing process of getting out of it and trying to come back to her original self. It's just such a raw and like transparent view of what a toxic relationship looks like. I mean, this book is so immersive. There's literally a scene where it's kind of like a, for lack of a better word, like choose your own adventure, where like you basically get to choose how you react to something that the girlfriend says. And it's so real how Carmen like puts you as a reader like into her shoes so that you can really experience what she went through. And obviously it's like we're never gonna experience what she went through. Like, that is something that is so personal and individual to her experience, but she does a really good job at making this feel really real and really vivid. And it's so heartbreaking, but it also is full of hope because you do have that part where she gets out of the relationship and she's reflecting on everything that she's been through. You see her starting to heal and how she was able to take those steps and distance herself from the nightmare that was her past. It was phenomenal. I feel like she has like reimagined the memoir genre. It's like nothing I've ever read before. Okay, next up, I don't own this book, but it's another memoir, When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This book also tore me apart. I don't know why I was out here reading so many books that just delved deep into the human soul. This one was also very hard to read. It is about a neurosurgeon who is diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it's basically his experience with like knowing he's going to die and like how he's supposed to like relearn how to live his life with meaning and finding purpose in life. What I love so much about this memoir is, yeah, it is like a reflection on his life and like things that he went through, but it's also kind of a study on the human psyche. He talks a lot about where biology meets psychology and how you kind of bring meaning into like really abstract things. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you really just have to read the book. It was sad. Oh my god, the ending was so messed up. It's really sad because it is like obviously about him dealing with his diagnosis and coming to terms with the fact that he will die like before his wife and his newborn daughter. But it was so fascinating and touching to read about how he kind of just took on a new perspective on life and how he was able to apply that just to the way he lived the rest of his life and figure out how to find meaning in the remaining days that he had. There's no way for me to just explain this book and do it justice. Like, you just have to experience it and read it yourself. Last but not least, we have 7 Days in June by T. Williams. This is the ultimate romance book. This is a book that changed my life. I have never been the same since I finished this book. It altered my brain chemistry, and this is Black love in its purest form. This is an exploration of Black womanhood, of Blackness, of intergenerational trauma and Black communities and Black families. This book is like everything that I want in a book because you have the tenderness of romance, you have the tenderness of being close to family and what it means to escape an abusive, toxic household and then have a chance to build your own family and kind of restart and have a new chance at life, but then also have those fears of screwing up your own child and passing on the traumas that your own family and your mother gave you to your daughter. I think especially I loved the portrayal of Black womanhood. Genevieve in this book, the main character, she's an author and she talks a lot about how there's a lot of pressure on women, specifically Black women, to be strong and to not show their true emotions and be honest about when they're in pain. But she deals with chronic pain, and so that's like something that she just can't do. Like, she has to be honest about her pain, otherwise she literally will not be able to function. And so it was really interesting to see that strong Black woman archetype unpacked and debunked and dealt with in a good way. There's just such an amazing sense of community with this book because Shane is like a mentor for a young Black kid and he has his own struggles with like addiction and he's trying to heal so much from his own past. My favorite part about this book, it's these two characters who have such complex but like yet intertwined backgrounds and how it is a romance, but there's so much emphasis on the need to heal yourself and to be okay on your own before you can get into a committed relationship with someone else. That hole is not going to be right if you are not healed. They fully understand that they are going to perpetuate past abuses and past toxic behaviors that they've experienced in their previous relationships with their families and their other significant others if they do not heal themselves before they get together. So I just love that this book was really about healing. It is a romance, but it's also so much more than that. Every little thing that's brought up is not a little thing, like the chronic illness and the weight that Black women bear and the weight that Black men bear, all of that. Like, there's so much baggage coming in with their relationship, and I like that it's not just brushed off. It's actually dealt with in a respectful and realistic and comforting yet heartbreaking and devastating way. And then that made the romance and the relationship and the chemistry between the characters even better. This book also had me crying. Yes, because I saw a Black woman in love, but also because it was very sad at points. Like, there's this one scene that lives in my head rent-free. I'm very happy with my reading this year because, like I said earlier, I feel like I read a lot of amazing books, and this year it was very much about the quality of what I was reading rather than the amount of books that I'm reading. And I took a lot from most of the books that I read. Even if they weren't my favorite, I still feel like they impacted me in a necessary and important way. I'm happy to have read them. I think overall this year, I just fell back in love with reading, and not just like finding new books, but just the act of reading itself, and like uncovering new meanings behind words that I've been using my whole life, and uncovering new beautiful ways to tell stories, and just so many things. And I hope that next year it can be just like this and even better. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please let me know what your favorite reads of 2022 were and what you're looking forward to reading next year. I don't know if you want to see a video on my 2023 anticipated reads or books that I need to read next year, but I might do it if you're interested, or I might just post it on my Instagram. So that is another sign. You should follow me on social media, because that's where I talk the most about what I'm reading and what I am going to read and what I want to read. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like this video, comment down below, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on social media. Join my book club if you want. Everything is linked down below. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye.